Welcome to the Awards Heaven podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Bright.
And I'm Tony Ruiz.
And as you may have noticed, we are Robless today. Rob is on sabbatical so he can pursue his dream being the opening act for Shaggy's World Tour. It's been something that's been deep inside him for a long time. No, he
I
wasn't
thought
able
you were
to.
I thought you were going to suggest that maybe he was, applying to replace Kristi Noem.
I thought I was actually going to. At first, actually, my first thought was he was going to be is that he was applying to be the next Ayatollah.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's sandy there. Also, I think he get it. I think he grew with it. And already we're off the rails. We are going to be talking about our reactions to Sunday night's SAG Awards. Are also going to be going a little bit more into just bouncing stuff off about our thoughts about movies from 1999. We're also going to be reviewing all of the Oscar-nominated shorts, or we'll be reviewing the packages of the short films. And our top five this week is going to be our top five favorite underrated comedies. So let's kick things off with talking about SAG. Big winner there was Sinners, winning Best Cast and Best Actor for Michael B. Jordan, much to Viola Davis's happiness. That was an epic reaction when she announced that. Jessie Buckley, as expected, won Best Actress for Hamnet. Sean Penn repeated his BAFTA win in Supporting Actor for One Battle After Another, and Amy Madigan won Supporting Actress for Weapons. Tony, I'll just throw this over to you. What were your thoughts on the SAG on the ceremony, which I know you're a big fan of talking about with these award shows, but also where things stand in the Oscar race? Because I feel like we got a bit of a jolt in it.
Well, I'll talk about the ceremony first. First of all, the venue. I realize that this is so petty, but the venue was gorgeous. I love that kind of elongated stage that they
I believe it was
had.
the Shrine. I think it was the Shrine where they had it, the Shrine Auditorium.
Yeah, but they did it differently because it's been at the shrine before,
Mm.
but it's never been like situated with that. It was very intimate, while also with the stage feeling expansive, which I thought was great. I love clips. Um, I could have done without all the ping pong cutaways, but whatever.
Yeah, that just didn't work, especially because Tim. I think they were doing that, predicating that they thought Timothy would win.
Well, we'll get into that in a bit, but
Yeah.
because I think we all have thoughts. Um, but as far as it did feel a little bit of like a slow show. It felt like a slog to me at times,
A bit, yeah.
um, which I don't always find with SAG. I don't know why this one. I do love the fact that people swear a lot when the SAG is on Netflix. They even play clips of swearing in the performances. So it's yay, we're almost like the rest of the world that doesn't have a stick up our ass. So that's lovely. But as to the winners, I mean, okay, we can. I think you and I are in agreement that we can just announce the coronation of Jessie Buckley,
Yeah.
and that Sean Penn is probably on his way to Oscar number three. Um, I just when the two main industry awards, yes, Penn has been absent from pretty much everything else. Didn't get his first wins until his first win until BAFTA, but the back to back combination of SAG and BAFTA, the two that have the biggest industry overlap with Academy voters, I think you're crazy to predict anybody other than Sean Penn. I don't. I feel like people are trying to will Delroy Lindo into existence, and I'm not saying it's completely out of the realm of possibility because stranger things have happened. We know this. However, if you are an experienced Oscar prognosticator, you have no business predicting Delroy Lindo. Based on what? His only literal nomination is the Oscars. And I don't see his only like industry recognition is the Oscars. And So I'm not saying it's completely out of the realm of possibility. I think there's a legitimate case to be made for all five of the supporting actor nominees to win. But Sean Penn has the strongest case, in my opinion. He's in a Best Picture frontrunner. He's won both industry awards. It's a flashy, over the top villain performance. They love that, particularly in the supporting actor category. I'm going to go with that. I love Michael B. Jordan winning, um, and I know some people have seen that coming. Um, I am predicting Michael B. Jordan at the Oscars now. Um, but and then supporting actress, my girl Amy. Um, that just made me so happy, particularly since we keep hearing naysayers go, "It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen." Yeah. Well, I was right. Um, so I'm going to just. I'm still not sure. I'm still not fully ready to predict her at the Oscars. I think she's got a strong chance. What do you think, particularly based on the wins by Michael B. Jordan and Amy Madigan?
I did switch to Michael B. Jordan in my predictions. I really feel like, though I feel like there's still maybe some wiggle room there, but I really think that this is his for the taking now. And I mean, what better role for that than playing twins? It reminded me, his performance reminded me of a quote I heard a film critic say back in 2002 about Nicolas Cage's performance and adaptation. And this critic, I can't remember, I think he was, pretty sure it was, yeah, it was a DC based film critic who said about that performance, and I think this applies to Michael as well. It's a performance that uses trick photography, but it's not a trick performance. Each their own distinctive performance. And yeah, I don't know. Has anyone and I maybe has anyone won an Oscar for playing multiple roles in one movie? I can't remember if that's
The
happened or not.
there is one that comes to mind, and that is Lee Marvin for Cat Ballou, Best Actor in 1965, where he played multiple two, if not three roles. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, but that's the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, like we've had like nominations like Nicolas Cage in adaptation, Peter Sellers with Doctor Strangelove. Um, I yeah, I feel like that the tide has turned and that's a great place for Sinners to get another big win. Um, of course, I'm on the same page with you about Jesse Buckley, and I did switch to Penn. Um, I don't know what it is. I think it's maybe the fact that I have nothing against his performance. I like his performance in the movie. I think it's really fun. It's that great villainous role. But again, for some reason to me, it weirdly feels kind of I think and you can chastise me for this as much as you want, but I kind of feel like it's a lazy vote because it's his third and it's like and I don't know, I just feel like there are other dynamics with the other performances there. I do think I think there's a stronger than what it may seem shot for Delroy Lindo. Um, but I mean, I would be crazy to pick that, and I can't bring myself to do that. And I think and when you have both BAFTA and SAG, especially the fact that he hasn't campaigned for this at all, and he wins both of those. I mean, that's to me. Though I do also think uh, that there could be a chance still for Stellan because of the international component at the Academy. So and we didn't have him at SAG. So there are those things there, and I really think it's between those three. I don't see I as much as I loved his performance and he'd be my personal pick. I don't see uh, Benicio's chance, and I pronounced it correctly this time. Uh, I don't. I really feel like his was just he was the critic's darling, and Jacob Elordi is glad to be at the party. He has a piece of hardware for that performance. I just don't see that happening. So I really
yeah,
I really
you know
think it's a
what's
three person race, but with Penn distinctly out front.
Yeah, it's funny because uh, I have been wondering why it was, and you'll appreciate this, Charlie, as
Mhm.
somebody who didn't necessarily understand the raves for Benicio in Traffic.
Mhm.
Um, um, I have been trying to find the words to explain why Benicio in One Battle. I don't think it's a bad performance at all. I couldn't understand people losing their minds over it. Because when I hear people talking about it, he plays it so straight and so flat that I'm like, okay, yeah, that is an interesting counterbalance to all the craziness that's going on around. But like, you know, to me, what Penn did, which I found so interesting, was that yes, he plays an absolute horrible monster, racist, terrible human
You know what
being
did
that
you know what
deserves
the you know what it is? It's the haircut.
what?
It's the haircut. It's Sean Penn's haircut, isn't it? That's what does it. That's what does it. Because you look at that and you're like, you are late for the clan meeting, my friend.
But but what I think, I don't know how you feel about this, but when I saw Penn's performance, what shocked me is that I always got the feeling that the character, as Penn inhabits him, is somebody who, on one hand, deeply believes in what he's saying and what he's doing, and deeply believing in his hateful horribleness. But yet, in some of the scenes, and I keep going back to the scene in the church with Chase Infinity, I felt like what Penn conveys is that there's a sliver of himself that is still fighting that is going, oh my God, I'm actually going to kill my own daughter. And I think Penn has this ability to just take any character and infuse it with a certain humanity that, even though I was, repulsed by him for the entire movie, I could not take my eyes off of him. And I don't know why that performance seems to have, crested with, BAFTA and SAG when it did, but I think I would be more upset about him getting his third Oscar if I didn't feel the performance was worth it. And I feel it's a worthy performance. Now let's talk about the really important thing. Why do you think Chalamet is imploding?
I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe there. I don't. It's so bizarre to me. Well, and I messaged this to you in our group about how it's so bizarre how he pulls off a huge upset at SAG last year against. It was the only place where Adrian Brody faltered. And you would think, with the way that SAG goes, because they didn't give Adrian Brody the SAG award for The Pianist, so you would think that they would have taken that time to give it to him for The Brutalist. But so he upsets at SAG, and then the very following year, when he's supposed to be the anointed front runner, he loses. It's very bizarre to me. I guess there are people in the industry who I guess he's rubbed the wrong way. I would argue. I think it's because of who he's dating. I think that has rubbed off on him because he wasn't as because he. I think that he's become. I think for some people he's become so much more insufferable. I still like him. I think he is. I think he has the talent to back up. Maybe being as pretentious as he is, to a certain degree. Um, he just also just reminds me of a theater kid that's all grown up. Uh, I
Yeah, but here's the thing. And here's the thing. Like, I feel like his, because I remember distinctly when he won at SAG last year, that speech really annoying me. I was like,
Okay,
holy.
here's the thing. I remember you saying that, and I missed the SAG Awards last year. I missed them last year. So I remember you posting your reaction in our group chat about how that speech annoyed you, and I watched the speech. I didn't find anything irritating or annoying about it. I thought it was just I saw it as just aspirational, and that didn't rub me the wrong way. but it looks like that and that attitude has rubbed some people quite the wrong way.
Well, and then when you go out and say things, where you're basically, indirectly or unintentionally trashing things like opera and ballet. Sorry, you're not winning me over with that one because opera is my life.
Oh, I forgot. It was so long ago that I watched. I must have
Oh,
forgotten.
no, no, no. This is recent. This is like in the
Oh,
last
okay. Oh,
week.
this was not in the SAG speech from last year.
No, no.
Oh, okay, okay.
This is in a recent. I want to say it was maybe a podcast that he did.
Was it
You
that thing
know,
he did with Matthew McConaughey?
no, it wasn't there. I'm gonna look and find it while you're talking about other things. Oh yeah, there I found it right now. Yeah, it was the thing with McConaughey.
Hmm.
It was in the town hall, and I want to be sure I get um,
The quote.
but I want to get the quote. Um, oh, he was talking about the importance of uh, you know of reviving movies and things like that, and people going to the cinema. Um, and he says, uh, I admire people, and I've done it myself, who go on a talk show and say, hey, we've got to keep movie theaters alive. We've got to keep this genre alive. And another part of me feels like if people want to see it, like Barbie, like Oppenheimer, they're going to go see it and go out of their way to be loud and proud about it. I don't want to be working in ballet or opera or things where it's like, hey, let's keep this alive. All respect to the ballet and opera people out there, which just like, I was like, dude, he just can't help himself. He just
Yeah.
can't help himself. Um, and I hadn't thought about the Kendall Jenner aspect of it, but do you see any? So we both are going to are predicting Michael B. Jordan. Um,
Yes.
so if it's, and I still think Chalamet could win. I'm not saying that he's out completely. It would be really hard. Ironically, the last person to win the Oscar without winning BAFTA and SAG was Sean Penn. Um, so, who knows? But do you
And he did
think
that. He
like
did that. Oh, that was you're talking about when he won for Mystic River because he did win
for
SAG for
Mr.
Mystic.
River? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I wonder, is there still a path for Ethan Hawke? Is there still a
Mm.
path for? I don't know that I see that there's a path for Wagner Moura.
Yeah. Yeah. The buzz on Secret Agent just feels like it has completely fizzled out.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's where we are right now. We'll have to
But then there's
obviously next
supporting
week.
actress also,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah. We
this
have to talk about that.
yeah. So I am as of this moment I'm predicting Wunmi Masaku uh, for that. Man, I don't know why I have this. I maybe it's because I want Amy Madigan to win so badly, and I always am very cautious and have a lot of trepidation about predicting something, even when if there's any bit of doubt in my mind about it, I feel like I don't I like if I'm predicting it, I'm willing it to happen, and I'll be more devastated if it doesn't happen. And I really do want Amy Madigan to win. She is by far my choice in that category. But I really think this is an active three-way race, and anybody who says that it is simple to decide to predict who's winning is completely talking out of their ass at this point, because
Yeah.
this could genuinely. I think it's any one of those three, Amy, Winmi, and I still think Tiana Taylor is very much in this.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw out my logic here for why I'm gonna go the way I'm gonna go. I do think that I'm gonna predict Amy. Um, and it's not a confident prediction. It's not anybody, you're stupid to predict anybody else because again, I think this is a three-person race. I'm a little bit more on the two-person race side because I think Tiana is like third on that list, but I do still think she has a shot.
Mm-hmm.
But here's my rationale. Um, it's the same rationale that I had for predicting Amy at SAG. And that is, I think you've got the two best picture frontrunners, which are Sinners and One Battle After Another. They both have very devoted fan bases. And in that case, I think this is maybe a different kind of vote split. You're going to have people who are very much in the One Battle camp. You're going to have people that are very much in the Sinners camp. In that case, who has room to break through? The veteran with the character of the year. And I realize that people keep bringing up that, she's the only nomination for the film. Somebody winning an acting award for being the only nomination of the film happens more than we think it does. I just off the top of my head, I go to Marissa, just in the Best Supporting Actress category. You can go to Linda Hunt in The Year of Living Dangerously. You can go to Penelope Cruz for Vicky Cristina Barcelona. You can go to, oh God, it just
Tilda
left
Swinton.
my brain. No, she wasn't the only nomination for Michael Clayton.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, I'm thinking she only had the one precursor. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. My mind just bleh.
Yeah, it can happen. I believe it's happened.
Did Judy have a nomination for makeup?
Possibly. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. But there were some others that were in my brain, and I literally just researched it the other day, and it's gone. But my point is, it's not completely out of the realm of Forrest Whitaker in The Last King of Scotland.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He was the only nominee for that film. So it can happen. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So I'm going to stick with Amy, realizing that there's a pretty good chance that I'm wrong. Mainly because I just feel like, and don't forget, Amy Madigan won right at the peak of Oscar voting. Oscar voting was going on when, they were tallying probably when they were tallying the ballots for SAG. So, if SAG was willing to go along with that, then I'm going to go along with that for the right, knowing I might be wrong. Because, Inga's not winning. As much as I would love that, but if they're going to give it to somebody, I really think now that Michael B. Jordan is most likely going to win Best Actor, that gives Sinners an acting win. If it especially is competitive for Best Picture, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there, but that's where I'm going to land. And damned.
Let's segue into Best Picture right now, because it's not just that Sinners won the Best Cast prize. The reception in that room when they got up on that stage was, to me, it was kind of reminiscent of when Parasite won that SAG. Mm-hmm. And now I'm actually, and I used to be, and at the time, weeks ago, I was saying that people were trying to make this more than it was, and I still believe that was an appropriate reaction at the time. But now, I have no clue. I am going to be, it's one of the things that it's gonna keep me up at night, because honestly, there's One Battle has been so consistent almost everywhere, and this was but that reception they got when they got up there was undeniable. Mm-hmm. And I really think this is a true horse race now.
Yes, I completely agree. And if Sinners ends up winning Best Picture, I'm not going to be surprised or shocked or even upset about it.
I will be surprised. Even if I was predicting it, I would be surprised, because it would just be such an incredible thing for them to pull off.
Yeah, it is, and that's why I'm not going to predict it, because I cannot remember the last time, and I'm sure somebody listening will make a comment or send us a letter about how, I can't remember the last time a film won an acting award, director, screenplay, probably editing too, and
Hmm.
then went on to lose Best Picture. So I realize that stats are made to be broken, and but if one battle had shown any weakness anywhere else, and it really hasn't,
Hmm.
it, I can't not predict it. I can't not predict it.
Yeah, it's one where I think it's just where it's gotten dicier. I probably am just going to stick with it. Um, but what's interesting is I do think that PTA is safe in directing because unlike the Parasite year, Sam Mendes already had his Oscar for American Beauty for directing. So it made sense that more people would go okay, so we get and that effect of Parasite and being part of that cultural moment. This is all part of Paul Thomas Anderson's overdue narrative. And so I do think he's safe in directing. And what's interesting is that we know most likely going into the night that Coogler and Anderson have screenplay on lock, unless barring something incredibly bizarre happening at WGA, which I do not see happening.
Right.
So they're probably gonna at least have one apiece. Now I think it would be cool. It would be cool if Anderson was director and then Sinners wins picture. I think that would be very
Then they could
interesting.
have two.
They both have two Oscars, and then I want to see him backstage like fighting each other with the
I
Oscars. I
want
want
to
to like
see them in the Variety morning after photo, kind of
yes,
similar to Damien
yes.
Chazelle and Barry Jenkins.
Or do you remember Entertainment Weekly used to do that the photo spread their annual Oscar post Oscar issue called the morning after, and they'd show
Yeah,
someone the morning after they won. The one I always remember is Tilda Swinton in bed with her Oscar before she gave it to her agent, who she said she was going to give it to. Um,
yeah,
I would love to see them just like like having a lightsaber battle with. I think that would be hilarious.
yeah. I mean, so everybody watch the space. We have a week to think about it and agonize over it, and then when we come back with our final predictions on next week's episode, uh, who knows what's going to happen? Because let's face facts, anything could happen at any time. We all know this.
So I want to go into our next area of discussion. I want to just revisit some of the movies of 1999. For our listeners and viewers, if you couldn't tell from last week, we were in a bit of a rush to finish that episode. I was very worried about how my rant would sound because I felt like I was kind of all over the place. There was one thing I forgot to mention in my rant though. Whenever whenever Trump is out of office, the best party of the year is going to be at the Kennedy Center to knock down his name off that fucking building. It is going to be such a party. We are going to be, the Saudi embassy is going to make noise complaints all night long and we won't care because we're going to have a go-go band going, playing Chuck Brown hits as we knock each one of those letters of his name off of that building. It's going to be it's going to be a magical moment. I'm going to, once an election is called and he's not in office anymore, I am hopping in an Uber and just going down there down Jabal Khashoggi Way, which is the name of the street in front of the Saudi embassy. The DC City Board named it that. Um, I thought it was interesting. I was looking at some of our comments on that of people putting their top fives of 1999, and I saw two people put the Best Picture winner that year, American Beauty, as their number one. Now, I'm curious because it is a movie that has aged in a very complicated way. And so I'm eager to hear what were your thoughts about American Beauty when you saw it initially, and and what are your thoughts about that movie today?
Well, it's interesting. I have a lot. I had a lot that I wanted to say last week, but because of time, we couldn't. There is this narrative of 1999. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about American Beauty, since that's what you asked me. It's been that kind of day.
It's understandable.
So American Beauty was a film that I thought was fine. The only thing I really loved in that movie were the performances of Annette Bening and Chris Cooper. Those were the two things that I loved. Um, I found I did not like Kevin Spacey's performance in that movie, and I really was very uncomfortable, even as a 21, 22 year old, with this kind of like lusty, you know, teenage girl thing. It just seemed odd to me. Um, and I don't think that film necessarily has aged well. Um, but movies are the product of the time, and I think people forget that, you know, we are in a much different time than it was, going on almost 30 years ago. Um, God, that sounds weird to say that 1999 was almost 30 years ago.
I know.
Um, but yeah, I mean, what about you? What were your feelings about it?
I loved it when I first saw it back in, I guess, 2000. It was just when I saw it. I thought the movie was incredible, and I watched it so many times in high school. I could basically recite the movie. Um, there are so many great scenes, and I I still love Kevin Spacey's performance in that movie. I think he's hilarious in the movie. I think that movie. The thing about that movie is it still makes me laugh, and I look at it as a satire. So on a certain level, because it's a satire, my thinking is I'm not supposed to take. There are things. There's a level of reality to it, but I'm not supposed to take it like as seriously as I would if it was just a social drama. Um, I There are scenes that I just love. The Pass the Asparagus scene is so brilliantly written. I mean, Alan Ball's script I think is incredible, and there are parts of it now, like the whole Wes Bentley bag dancing in the air thing. That is, but if honestly though, if anyone is going to have that full of an opinion of themselves, it's going to be someone in high school.
Right.
So that kind of makes sense. It's like is as it's not supposed to be as profound as it is. I think you watch it now and you look at it more in a mocking way. But I also I love Kevin Spacey's scene when he puts his job performance and his boss is reading the job description. My job basically consists of masking my contempt for the assholes in charge and at least once a day retiring to the men's room so I can jerk off while I fantasize about a life that doesn't so closely resemble hell. And the way that Kevin Spacey smile and he just mouths along with that last sentence, I thought was so. I actually do like the movie, and I still and I, but I willingly acknowledge that there are a lot of things that would not sit well if it were made today. But it is a product of its time, very much the same way I view the movie version of MASH.
Right.
It is incredibly sexist, but it wasn't even set in the time it was released. The movie is set in the 1950s during the Korean War, so it would make sense that a lot of that would be of that side. So it's just a way for me to say I grant it is a complicated movie, but I love that movie. I also just love my other favorite Kevin Spacey line in that movie is when he just starts working out and he's jogging with Scott Bakula and I can't remember the other actor who played their gay neighbors.
The gay
Jim.
neighbors.
That's Jim and his lover Jim.
Jim.
When I think it's Scott Bakula goes, "Are you looking to gain muscle or are you looking to gain increased strength and flexibility?" They run ahead of him and he just goes, "I want to look good naked."
Well, and here's the thing. The larger kind of point that I wanted to make is, and I didn't make this because I know how much, particularly for Rob, who's not here, but I would say this even if he was here. People like to talk about 1999 as the year of film, as a great year in film, and it was. I always found it a little bit kind of hyperbolic to say that it's one of the greatest years in film. For me, And again, that's always going to be such a subjective thing to say because I go back to say like the year 1993 where you had Schindler's List and The Piano and The Fugitive and In the Name of the Father and Philadelphia and The Remains of the Day, and I'm like, oh my God, that's like one of my favorite years in film. But you know. We could do our favorite. We could do a top 10 for so many years that
Mm.
are great years in film. I think this year is a great year in film. I think in if we're still doing this podcast in 20 years, we might come back and revisit some of our, and who knows, we very well might. Who knows? Um, our voices will be a lot different then. Um,
And then we'll all go on Grandpa Simpson rants.
yeah.
You see, back in my day, nickels had pictures of bumblebees on them. Give me 5 bees for a quarter, you'd say. But the important thing was I had an onion on my belt, which was style at the time.
I needed a new heel for my shoe.
Yep. But I do. I think
Anywho,
I actually do agree with that since I think 1999 belongs in that pantheon of like great years of cinema, of like a 1939 and a 1969 also.
yeah,
It's weird how like every 30 years you have that. But not 39, 69, and then 99.
yeah. We'll see what
Uh,
happens in 2029.
we'll have to wait and see. But I do think there's just something about that year that you really could do this for almost any year, but 99 just feels something about it just feels special. You also had, I'm surprised. Well, I'm kind of not surprised that none of us had Stanley Kubrick's last movie, Eyes Wide Shut,
Mm.
because I know that is a bit of a cult favorite now. I hadn't seen it. I only watched it for the first time a couple years ago, and I'm just like, dear God, this is bizarre. Um,
Like, what the hell is Sidney Pollack doing in this movie?
exactly what I'm thinking. What the fuck is this? Uh, but I didn't hate it. I liked it. But I do think that, and I think there's just so much of that year, and it was also I think so much that was lame, especially with a film like The Matrix, which was so innovative in what it was doing on a technical level. I think that alone makes it that sort of landmark year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Were there any others that you wanted to put on like your honorable mentions? I saw in our honorable mentions, I saw a couple people put Three Kings in there, which is a great movie.
I love
Um,
Three Kings.
Three Kings is great. But adding to the year that Spike Jonze had, he had made his directorial debut, and he's in that movie with George Clooney, Ice Cube, and Mark Wahlberg. Um, I thought,
Where Clooney almost killed him.
yeah. I'm trying to remember some of the
I also
other.
was a I was a big I was a big fan of I was a big well I think there's issues with the movie, but I do think that one of my favorite films of that year was The Talented Mr. Ripley, which I know was on somebody's list. Was it on yours or Amanda's
No, it was.
or
I think it was on Rob's.
on Rob's? Um, I love Denzel Washington in the Hurricane. That to me is a much better movie than I thought it was going to be when I went into it. Um, yeah, it I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now because my brain is mush.
I'll tell you. I Another movie I really liked was Sweet and Low Down, the Woody Allen movie with
Mm,
Sean Penn and Samantha Morton. Especially because that was something we had never seen Sean Penn do, where he's kind of silly in it, and it's actually kind of charming, which is weird to say about Sean Penn, but I actually found that to
he
be
has his moments.
he does. Um, and I'm just trying to think of some of the Man on the Moon, the Andy Kaufman movie, directed
Hmm.
by Milos Forman. Was that Milos's last film that he made?
It might have been.
I absolutely love that movie. I love that it has this mysterious air to it. Like during the credits, you see Jim Carrey as Andy Kaufman peek out from the side, um, and because there's all these. The urban legend about Andy Kaufman faking his death, which apparently he did bring up to his manager Bob Zamuda at one point. Um, I asked him about the movie.
Milos Forman's final film was Goya's Ghost. Man on the Moon was which Goya's Ghost was a 2006 film.
Oh, okay,
Man on the Moon was his second to last.
okay. I adore the feel of that movie. I think that Paul Giamatti's great in that movie. Danny DeVito's great. Courtney Love is great. Somehow, Milos Forman had a way of getting great performances out of Courtney Love. Um, did anybody? No one had Toy Story 2 on their list, did they?
No, but the animated film that I was considering putting on my list was The Iron Giant.
I had a feeling, yeah, that I had a feeling that one. I'll be honest, I've never seen The Iron Giant.
Oh, do yourself a favor.
Although, from what I've heard about from Ted Lasso, it will, and everything I've heard beforehand, I will be a sobbing mess at the end of it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a masterpiece of good old fashioned animation. Um, I actually was when I was putting together my list, I watched a few clips of the Iron Giant. I was like, oh,
Well, now that we've talked about all this, and I will also say, I like the Green Mile. I know
I do
it's
too.
I've read the Green Mile, and I actually too, and I actually think it's a very faithful adaptation. But Stephen King actually loves Frank Darabont making adaptations of his movies, of his books, and I actually do like the Cider House Rules. I haven't seen it in at least 15 years, but I do like
I
that movie.
I constantly defend Michael Caine's Oscar win.
He wouldn't be my pick, but he
It wouldn't be
gives a
my
great
pick either.
performance. He gives
I
a
agree.
fantastic performance, and it got John Irving an Oscar. And I rewatched his Oscar speech a couple of years ago. He thanked Planned Parenthood
Yeah.
in his speech. And it's a film that because of because of stuff that's happened in the last 3 years has become increasingly relevant in a way that I wish it wasn't. Talk about another great Delroy Lindo performance, also.
Yes.
And Erica Badu. Erica Badu is wonderful in that movie.
And Kathy Baker and Jane Alexander
And Charlize Theron and Paul Rudd and Tobey Maguire and the young kid from Malcolm in the Middle who plays Buzzy. The
yes,
Eric Persullivan, that's his name.
yes.
Yeah, I like that movie. So, our next thing we want to talk about now are the short film categories. Tony and I have watched all 15 Oscar nominated shorts, and I let's go through them as groups. So let's start off with animated short film.
Okay.
What were your reactions to them, and what do you see as being the real players for the Oscar?
So I'm just going to quickly read through the nominees. The nominees are Butterfly, Forever Green, The Girl Who Cried Pearls, Retirement Plan, and The Three Sisters. Um, I This category really struck me as I think I wouldn't. It was kind of underwhelming to me. I liked two of these a great deal, and I think it's between those two. And my favorite is actually not the one that I'm going to end up predicting. Of these, my two favorites were Butterfly and Forever Green. Those were the ones that I responded to the most. I'm going to Forever Green was my favorite. It was the one that made me the happiest. Um, I love anthropomorphism, and if you anthropomorphize a giant tree taking care of a tiny bear cub, and you make me cry at the end, um, I'm all in. Um, I'm actually going to predict Butterfly, um, which is an absolutely beautiful film. It's based on the life of an actual of a Jewish swimmer whose family captured by the Nazis. He was actually separated from his family. He was the only member of his family to survive, um, and he survived Auschwitz and Buchenwald, um, and then went on to have a great Olympic career. Um, it's done in kind of a watercolor style, and I thought it was so beautiful. Um, it was both charming, beautiful to look at, heartbreaking at times. Doesn't shy away from the horrors, but depicts it in a really interesting way. Um, I think that one will probably win, but I think Forever Green could also win. Um, I thought the retirement plan was kind of a one joke uh, thing that was fine, but the gag got old really quick. It's the shortest of the nominees, but it felt the longest to me. Um, the Girl Who Cried Pearls is a kind of stop motion uh, animation
That one I
that
felt like that had the most distinct animation style
that
of
had the most
up
distinct animation.
because it
I
looks so real.
Yes. Yes. Even though it's probably the most it looked the most real while simultaneously also looking the most abstract.
Hmm.
Um but I found myself kind of confused by the last 5 minutes of it. I was like, I didn't quite, I felt like the ending kind of undid what it was trying to do. And Three Sisters just kind of dragged for me. Um, so that's kind of where I am. I'm going to predict Butterfly, but my favorite was Forever Green. So as long as one of those two wins, I'm happy. What about you?
Um, the one that I actually found the most amusing was the Three Sisters. I actually found that
Oh,
one the most
really?
amusing. I love the animation style, the way they move around and everything. I was chuckling the whole time. Um, but my favorite was Forever Green. I was teary eyed at the end of it, and I am predicting it to win. And to me, it's not even close.
Mm,
It to me, it's just like it moves briskly. Almost anyone can enjoy it. It has the emotional aspect, and it has the like, remember Chris Beecham always says it has a cute animal in it, and I think that helps it immensely. And the tree's cute too. Um, I do think it is between those two. Forever Green and Butterfly. I think I'm going with Forever Green, and I am not losing any sleep over that. I mean, I
excellent.
could be wrong, but I honestly think to me that it screams winner to me.
Good. Okay. All right. Well,
Uh,
let's move on to live action short.
okay, that's the one I was going to say. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Those nominees are Butcher Stain, A Friend of Dorothy, Jane Austen's period drama, The Singers, and Two People Exchanging Saliva. Uh, why don't you go first on this one?
Okay. I liked all of these. I thought they were all really good. The one that I personally liked the most probably was uh, it's between A Friend of Dorothy and The Singers. And the weird thing is with The Friend of Dorothy, I actually feel that that was a bit rushed to me. I actually would have liked it to be a bit more drawn out, show a bit more of the establishing of that relationship between Dorothy and I can't remember the kid's name.
I can't remember the kid's name right now either.
And that character, I really would have liked a bit more, showing, establishing that relationship. But I found it immensely charming. How can you not smile with Miriam Margolyes? She is just an absolute delight in anything she does. Whether it's acting in something like this or a talk show appearance, she is one of the true gems of the UK. Um, but I also really liked the singers. I thought the singers was really interesting and just a really interesting note about camaraderie and just people these random people coming together for this one unique experience. Um, Let me see. Butcher Stain I thought was good, but I didn't think it stuck the landing. Uh, um, and I'm trying to think what are the other two?
Jane Austen's period
Oh,
drama.
Jane Austen's period drama was funny. It was funny, and I liked it. I'm glad it was only like what like 13 minutes. That was
Yeah.
that was the perfect amount of time for it. Um, I actually did like that. I found it very funny and charming. And two people exchanging saliva, it's just bizarre. I didn't dislike it, but at a certain point, I was just like, it was. I can deal with like unrequited and never and a love that never quite connects, but I've seen it done better.
Yeah.
Like automatically the first thing that popped into my mind was Carol, and the way that was done. And I realized there's only so much you can do, in what like 26 minutes. Uh, but I do think because of the title, I think it's a threat to win. Though I think it's between those three. I think it's between Friend of Dorothy, The Singers, and Two People Exchanging Saliva. What were your thoughts on the live action shorts?
You and I are in absolute complete agreement on this. Singers and Friend of Dorothy were my two favorites. Um, I have, when I was trying to rank them, I kept moving. It's so hard for me to choose between those two because I
Mm-hmm.
like them for different reasons. I'm I'm going to predict Friend of Dorothy because I think it's the more accessible from subject matter, not from like availability. Because The Singers is available on Netflix, so you can see it. But I think The Singers could easily win this. Again, Miriam Margolyes is a global treasure who I think is it seems to get more popular and more popular with every passing year. Um,
It's with every appearance on Graham Norton that she gets more popular.
exactly,
Have you seen her? Have you seen
exactly.
her? She was on the same episode as Alexander Skarsgård promoting Pillion, and it's
Oh
just
yeah.
absolutely hilarious, it's
Oh
priceless.
yeah, because one of the recurring themes of her on Graham Norton is her absolute hatred of Mamma Mia. Um, and so just go down a YouTube rabbit hole of Miriam Margolyes on Graham Norton, and it's a thing of beauty. Um, I love The Singers. I thought The Singers, both Friend of Dorothy and The Singers are short films that I could see being made into a longer film. Um, I feel like The Singers would be something that like would be maybe directed by Robert Altman. Um,
Yeah. I
I,
think
I
that. Yeah,
it, the when I finished it, that was the first thing I was like, God, this could be a Robert Altman movie. Um,
or an Alexander Payne movie. Weirdly, I feel
or
like it could also be
Alexander
that.
Payne movie. Although I would love to see Alexander Payne do a Friend of Dorothy.
Oh
Um,
God, I would love that. It's interesting you mentioned that. I just this is an aside, but at Middleburg one year, there was the first night there. This was not this past year, but the year before, I think it was. It was me, Ryan McQuaid, Jazz 10K, um, Mark Johnson, and Clayton Davis were also. And I can't remember who posed this question to us as a group, but someone said, "Okay, a director is going to direct the story of your life. Who would it be?" And for me, I chose Alexander Payne because
oh,
I
that's
think
a
he
good one.
because I think he would write that line between the comedy and the drama
I need
as an
to.
aside. But yeah,
I I'm going to think about that for the rest of the podcast. Um, as to the other ones, Butcher Stain was my third place one. It was good. It was good. I felt like it was trying to. I think if you're going to tackle a big Israel versus Palestine sort of thing, I think the stakes need to be a little bit higher. And I just was like, I don't know that this has enough. Jane Austen's period drama made me chuckle, but I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Look at how blissfully ignorant people in the 18th century were. Fine, whatever. Um, Two People Exchange Saliva, I actively disliked. Um, Mainly because if you're going to create a dystopian, if you're going to create a dystopia, you have to set out the rules and make the rules more clear for what the dystopia is trying to accomplish. And
okay.
I didn't feel like it did.
So if you're gonna like compare it to another movie, a feature length movie, I would say a great comparison would be The Lobster
Mm,
because it's that dystopian, but it outlines the rules. It doesn't show how we got there, but it does outline the rules very clearly.
right. Right. It just didn't work for me. I was like, by the end of it, I was like, okay, and after like the sixth or seventh time of somebody getting slapped in the face as payment,
Yeah.
I don't even understand that. I didn't even understand. Okay, yes, we're. I feel like if you're going to establish the rules for the dystopia, there has to be some allusion as to the reason for it. Like, what is the reason that people aren't allowed to kiss? What is the reason that we're exchanging slaps instead of currency? Like, why? And without that foundation, I realize you're limited by the time frame, but I felt like
I think
those
it's the longest of
pieces.
the. I think it's the longest of the five. It's over half an
I
hour.
think it is. I think it is. But I still felt like it didn't give me what I needed to really engage with it. And then some of the choices just seemed a little too on the nose. Like, let's name people after, emotions, malaise, and, angine, which is like anguish. So, I was like, okay, but I do agree with you. The title alone might get it votes.
Yeah, yeah. We've seen that. Having a traffic jam on the 405, learning to skateboard in a war zone if you're a girl. Um, those titles can be very persuasive. And I honestly, I think right now I have the singer as number one, but I am probably going to change it at least twice between now and Oscar night.
Me too.
Let's move on to the to documentary, and this one I actually think is probably the most difficult to prognosticate. I thought
Oh,
all
that's interesting because I actually think this is the easiest.
okay. I thought all five were very good, well-made documentaries. Of course, they were depressing, but of course that's just par for course in this category. Um, I'm interested. I'll let since I started the last one. You give us your thoughts on those.
So this is another case where I think there are two really good ones, two fine ones, and one that made me go, geez, what didn't get nominated from the short list? So I'm going to start with my least favorite, and that is Perfectly a Strangeness.
Yeah, yeah, that one.
I
That one
mean,
reminded me so much of. Remember the Walrus run a couple of years ago?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it reminded me of a lot.
And so for people who have not seen this or will not see this, save your time. I can't believe that a documentary that this was the shortest one by far. This was the only one that I think that's under 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's like 13. It's like 13 minutes.
And it felt the longest to me because nothing happens. I literally was like, so it's basically about these three donkeys that are walking around a space observatory in Chile, in the Chilean mountains. The entire film is random shots of the donkeys and various donkey body parts, like how many silhouettes of a donkey ear or a donkey nose or a donkey eyeball can I see? And then halfway through the film, the sun goes down and it's the silhouettes of the donkeys contrasted with amazing views of the stars. So what? I was like, this is 13 minutes of my life that I am not getting back. I mean, this is a film that makes, my octopus teacher look like Citizen fucking Kane. I just was like, well, that's a waste of time that I'll never get back. My number four is Children No More. We are were and are
We're and are
gone.
gone. Yeah,
Yes, a title that does not. That's two titles in a row: Perfectly a Strangeness and Were and Are Gone.
that
That
has
does
to.
not.
That just has to infuriate you as an English teacher.
It just doesn't roll off the tongue naturally. Very powerful film about Israeli citizens protesting the murder of Gazan children in the Israel-Palestine conflict. My problem with the film, other than the title, which doesn't roll off my tongue, is I feel like it starts off lacking forward momentum. I feel like the documentary really doesn't get going until you see the confrontations between the protesters and Israeli citizens who are criticizing the protesters and really criticizing them quite. They're quite abusive and they're quite,
Nasty. Yeah, no, they're
yeah,
nasty.
it's very uncomfortable. But that I wanted to explore more. The first half of the film just kind of sits there, and yes, it's emotional. Yes, it's sad. Didn't really do anything beyond that. I felt like the film was lacking some momentum that it really didn't get until the end. Armed Only with the Camera: The Life and Death of Brett Renault is a really tough documentary to watch. This was the one that I thought was the hardest to get through, about this photojournalist who was famous, a Peabody Award winning photojournalist, and his brother, who have gone to many, many difficult places all over the world: Iraq, Haiti, Honduras. He ended up being shot to death by Russian soldiers in Ukraine. They show his body. They show his brother going to Ukraine to collect the body. And it is interspersed with segments from some of his previous assignments. My problem with the film is that I think the film spends too much time on those segments, and it takes us out of the actual story of Brett Renault. Um, to a point where at a certain point I felt like I was just watching, okay, here's a little bit about Brett Renault, and here's a horrible situation he covered. And here's more, a little bit more about Brett, and here's another horrible situation. I felt like I wanted the balance to be more about him and less about, like, there's a great line in the film where, he talks about how he's more comfortable in a war zone where bombs are going off around him and gunshots are flying past
Rather than a
him.
cocktail party in Brooklyn.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I wanted to explore that more. My number two is The Devil is Busy, which is about a woman who works as a security guard at an abortion clinic in Georgia. Um, I love this woman. She is delightful and is doing the Lord's work, literally.
Everyone in
Um,
that clinic is.
Everyone in that clinic is the doctor. I thought it was so tastefully done. I thought it doesn't shy away from the sheer terror that some of these people, not just the women going in for procedures, but the workers, the things that they have to navigate, the protesters, the vitriol that they're having to deal with. So that was my number two. But to me, the clear winner here is All the Empty Rooms. I also, like you, saw this uh, several months ago. I rewatched it again today for the first time, and I just think it's an absolute gut punch. Um, this is a film about the CBS journalist Steve Hartman, who is known for doing these kind of like uplifting human, let's the positive side of humanity. He even had a segment called Kindness 101, these kind of, positive human interest stories that, and he, goes to the homes of parents who have lost their children to gun violence, particularly school shootings, and photographs their bedrooms, and putting these things together as kind of a living memorial to these children who keep dying in this shithole country that we call America, who doesn't want to do anything about gun violence. I look forward to your letters. But I just feel like that's the obvious. To me, it's not even. This is one I'm predicting very easily.
Yeah, I can't believe I was thinking of all of them. I think they all have an emotional, except Perfectly Strangeness, have a real emotional aspect to them. I think it's a real I think it's actually I do get what you're saying about all the empty rooms. And I was kind of on the same level with you about where you were ranking these. Um, Except I think I would flip um, uh, Children No More and Armed Only with the Camera. I'd flip those two. Um, I actually really liked Children No More. I really liked the way it framed things. Um, I thought it was I actually it started off very tense for me because I know how um, especially like dealing with people, fellow Israeli citizens who are on the other side, and the nastiness that can come in that. Um, I'm it's something that I know. It's actually one of the reasons I remember a couple of years ago that Netflix series Unorthodox.
Hmm.
I was scared to watch that because I know that the sexism that can come from the Hasidic Jewish community can be really nasty. And I was actually afraid that there could be like this domestic violence aspect to it. But I am glad I watched it. It ended up being absolutely phenomenal. Um, and I really, but I think it's a wonderful testament to what it kind of reminded me of what I remember when we did our top five documentaries, and I put both Ketty and Persepolis as a tie for my number four
Hmm.
because I said just because you're under an authoritarian regime doesn't necessarily mean that everybody who lives there subscribes to that ideology. Um, and I think this is a very good job of showing that within Israel. Um, I, 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 I do think, yeah, all the empty rooms probably I would in any other way I probably would think of it as an obvious front runner, but the devil is busy really affected me.
Hmm.
And I think that's part of because the way that I view the issue of abortion, and I've read and seen documentaries about the harassment and
Hmm.
the strategies that anti-choice people will do, both not just in protesting in front, they will they try to find ways to harass the people that work there outside of their work. Um, it's it's an infuriating thing, and I think this also comes
Well, they
from
talk
being
about it. I mean, the woman in the beginning, I mean, she's going through the rooms at the
yeah.
clinic, looking for people that are hiding in there, and I'm like,
Mhm.
oh my God. I think that is the spoiler. I do think it's between all the empty rooms and the devil is busy. And if the devil is busy, one, I'd be thrilled. Because that one snuck up on me. I did not watch that one. I was not excited to watch that one because I thought maybe it would either be uh, too much about the protest or that it would be too exploitative. I worried about that, and I thought it had just enough of both, not exploitative, but it captured the reality that these employees have to go through. It doesn't shy away from what the women are going through, the patients. I love the line that the doctor, who is just referred to as the doctor,
Yeah,
for her own
we don't see their names at all. We just see
no
it's just
for their safety.
head of security, security guard, call center manager, and the doctor.
Yeah, but I love what the doctor said is like, these are just the women that were able to get to me.
Hmm.
Think of all
Yep.
the women that can't. And to me, that was like the through line of the film. And I applaud Geeta Gandbir and Crystal and Hampton are the filmmakers, and
I mean, and
beautiful, beautiful work.
talk about embarrassment of riches. Gita could win two Oscars because she's also the
Yes.
director of the Perfect Neighbor, which I think we should go into next week about what's going on with documentary feature because that is a mind fuck of its own. Um, But yeah, I think it's between those two. It's really tough to predict between those for me at least. But I do think you're right. There is an edge with all the empty rooms, and it's hard to talk about this category sometimes also because you don't want to seem like you're a crass person who
No,
dismisses the importance of what these films are talking about. Um,
I am going to be crass and dismiss the donkeys at the observatory.
Duly noted. Um, yeah, that one. I'm just the thing about that film that it just kept me wondering how was this thing thought of, and how did you plan this out? Like, it just I have more questions about that movie than any other of the documentary of any of the other shorts there. Well, that brings us to our top five. Our top five this week is our top five favorite underrated comedies. I threw this out as just like a suggestion to have some fun before we do a more Oscar specific one for next week, because that'll be our predictions podcast. So, top five underrated comedies. Tony, what's your number five?
Um, and now, I want to preface this by saying, I don't know if everybody thinks these are underrated, but I think they're underrated. I think they deserve more attention than they get. My number five is To Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. Um, I don't care if that movie's in bad taste. I don't care if it hasn't aged well. I fucking love that movie. Um, I love Patrick Swayze in that movie. Yes, does Wesley Snipes look like 100 Miles of Bad Road in that movie? Yes. Um, John Leguizamo, perfection. But you know who the MVP of that movie is? It's Stockard Channing. That movie doesn't work if Stockard Channing doesn't play it absolutely straight, and she does. And the fact that she kind of anchors this film, just proof once again that Stockard Channing is a national treasure and deserves everything she ever gets. I think that movie is hilarious, and it makes me so happy.
My keeping with the queer aspect, my number five is actually In and Out. Um, I love this movie so much. There's so much wonderful, perfect timing in that movie, and it also greatly skewers Hollywood in the award scene. One of my favorite lines is when Kevin Kline's family is all around the TV watching the Oscars, and one of them goes, "Judy, what do you have for best documentary?" And she goes, "Something about Polish mine workers and their struggle to be free." Um, I'm just like, yeah, that's the Oscars.
Some things have never changed.
Yeah. I love what Tom Selleck is doing in this movie. He is fucking golden in this. Kevin Kline, just I love Kevin Kline in this movie. There's some of my favorite lines in that movie. June Squibb in that movie as one of the old ladies who gets to yell out, "My husband has three testicles," and then just going, "It's disgusting." Uh, Debbie Reynolds as the overbearing mother. It's like heroin. And of course, Joan Cusack.
One of the
How I
great comic
love
performances of all time.
how I love that Oscar nomination, especially when she runs out of the bar when Tom Selleck tells her he's gay. It's
Yeah.
I'm reception. Right? But she has one of my favorite line readings of all time when she bumps into Matt Dillon, who gives a great performance.
Yes.
A fantastic performance in that. When he goes, "Miss Montgomery," and he remarks like, "Oh, you've lost all this weight," and she goes, "Well, I was fat." Just the way she yells out the word "fat."
Do you know how many times I've had to watch Funny Lady?
She was under contract. Wilford Brimley's. But what I also love about the movie is it has a wonderful, almost like a rom-com moment where when he is at his lowest, when he's fired from his job, the town rallies around him. And I don't think that's something you would get a lot of movies would give you in 1997. Um, I think that was a really bold thing and to show this community standing up for someone when he's being bullied. I think that's a great thing.
I also just want to say very quickly, one of the greatest physical comedy moments in
Oh my
history
God,
is Kevin Kline, and wrapping the leg around Tom Selleck is so
oh,
funny. Is so
I
funny.
for me, it's actually when he does the masculinity tape and he starts dancing to "I Will Survive." Like that scene is pure
What a
comic.
fabulous
Like
window treatment.
fabulous, damn it! I love I love when the tape is yelling at him, like like the guy in the tape knows that whoever's listening to this is dancing their ass off. And by the way, Kevin Kline, his dance moves, I
Yes.
really liked it. But also when
There you
he
go,
has
Juilliard
does
training.
when he goes when the tape goes, think of Sylvester Stallone, think of Arnold. Arnold can't dance, he can barely walk.
Also still true.
Yes, very much. All right, Teddy, what's your number four?
My number four is Tim Burton's Mars Attacks. Um, I don't know why this movie makes me so happy. Maybe it's because so many serious actors are like just playing everything up to 11. Jack Nicholson with his shut up, and Rod Steiger with his we've got to annihilate, kill, kill, kill. And, my kids, when they were young, they would walk around the house just, going ack, 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 so we still do that. I think that, and the fact that it's so absurdly violent as well just makes me happy.
I remember being disturbed by that movie when I saw it when I was 10 years old. And I do I love Jack Nicholson has a great line delivery in that when he goes, I want people to know that they only have two out of the three branches of government working for them, and that
And
ain't
that ain't
bad.
bad.
I fucking love that.
Yes.
My number four is Wonder Boys. Uh,
Mm.
I love this movie of Michael Douglas as this writer who's just been stuck in a funk trying to trying to follow up what's widely regarded as a masterpiece. Um, Tobey Maguire is great in that as the disaffected young kid. Robert Downey Jr. as his editor is fantastic. Um, I adore this movie. I love some of the one-liners, especially like when Toby Maguire is baked out of his mind when Michael Douglas is trying to get into his ex-wife's parents' house, and he
Yes.
just say things like, "Someone jumped in your car with their butt." How can you tell? You can see the butt. So when he goes, "Have you?" He holds up a box of donut holes, going, "They're incredible." And Michael Douglas just goes, "Smoke the rest of that joint, James. You can start chewing on the box."
That movie, Michael Douglas was so robbed of an Oscar nomination. He should have won that year for that performance.
Oh man, that was such. Oh man, I would gladly take out Russell Crowe and put him in there for that. I honestly think it's probably because he also had Traffic that year. So
Hmm.
I think people just didn't know which one to put him down for. Um, but yeah, I love that movie. I think everyone's great in that movie. Frances McDormand is great. Rip Torn. I love Rip Torn in this movie so much. Um, and even like little roles. Alan Tudyk is great in that as a little role in that. He's great. I love that movie. It's so great, and even when you think it's going to go down a very dark path, it ends up being immensely sweet, and it earns it.
Yeah, I agree.
Tony number three.
My number three is Bowfinger. Um, Steve Martin, Eddie Murphy, written by Steve Martin. Um, I just think this film does what so many satires wish they could do, and that is be both just absolutely cutting in the target of the satire and be individually funny. And Eddie Murphy, I think it's Eddie Murphy's best performance in the dual roles, playing two completely different characters and making them so individual and magnetic. I just think that film got really underappreciated.
Very nice. I like that. My number three is A Mighty Wind. I think it's very often. Uh,
My heart.
more
My heart.
people. I feel like it's one of those things, and this will actually feed into my feelings about my number two as well. That a lot of people put more emphasis and remember and are more quick to remember Best in Show and Waiting for Guffman, but something about A Mighty Wind just works. Maybe it's the addition of the music. Good part of it is probably the everything with the Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara storyline is Mitch and Mickey. They make that work so well, and they make every moment just sizzle. I fucking love it. But the comedic performances from Fred Willard as the
As
manager of
the
the New Main
agent.
Street Circuit, as the new just the absolute absurdity. I want every single outtake that they have of that because there's some golden there's it's got to all be golden. It's just absolutely incredible. I love the like lines he has when he goes, I always thought there were 12 Supreme Court justices. Apparently there are 9. I don't know if it was budget cuts or something, but the one that actually for me steals the show is Ed Begley Jr. As the obviously Nordic head of PBS, dropping random Yiddish phrases in everywhere. But he's speaking to Bob Balaban, who doesn't get enough credit for as a straight man. He's so goddamn funny. But when he's going, I got these tickets from your father. Well, me and my friends, we let out a shry right there, and we're just all in a Chaim, the knockus that I'm feeling between us right now.
Well, I have two quick
And
things to
also
say.
Jennifer Coolidge, her line when the one guy talks about how he builds model trains, he goes, "Thank God for the model trains, or else where they get the idea for the big train."
uh, Two things. Number one, I actually bought an auto harp because of Catherine O'Hara in that movie. I have it.
Wow.
I actually learned how to play A Kiss at the End of the Rainbow on an auto
No.
harp. Yes, it's one of the biggest impulse buys I've ever done. I found one on eBay and I
Nice.
bought one. It's sitting in that cabinet. But one of my favorite things was when I got to interview Bob Balaban a couple of times actually, and because one of the things that just makes me laugh, Bob Balaban can make me laugh just about as hard as anybody. Um, and in his peak, one of the funniest scenes is when he's like basically critiquing everything on the stage. Like, why is that light there? And when the
Can
guy
you make
hits
it
him on the
actually
head,
3D? Can you make it actually
yeah.
3D?
And when the guy hits him on the head, I asked him about that moment, and he was like, "No, he really hit me, and it really hurt, and I really didn't know he was going to do that. I guess I was just really annoying." I love that movie. It's my favorite Christopher Guest movie.
Same. Absolutely.
Um,
Number two.
so my number two is 1990 from 1999, called Mystery Men.
Oh
Um,
my God. Oh my God. Yeah.
and for those of you who have never seen it, because it was a bomb,
It was a
um,
huge bomb.
but I love this movie. Unironically, I think this movie, I think it was too, especially in the age that we're in now, where we're like, everything is superhero and Marvel. I think that movie was so ahead of its time, and I think that's why people just didn't get the joke of it. But I mean, Janine Garofalo, William H Macy, Ben Stiller, Paul Rubens, Hank Azaria, um,
Tom Waits, Greg
Tom
Kinnear,
Waits, Greg
Jeffrey
Kinnear,
fucking
Jeffrey fucking
Rush
Rush.
as Casanova Frankenstein.
God,
I mean, first of all,
yes.
what a great name for a villain. What an
Yes.
awesome name for a villain.
Blue Raja, master of silverware. Um, I went to see that movie like 4 times. Granted, 3 of those times I was drunk out of my gourd. It's like going, yeah, Jenny Garofalo, throw that bowling ball with your dad's head in it. Um, but some of the odd, I think one of the funniest scenes in that movie is the auditions for the superheroes. And my personal favorite is, I'm period girl. I only work 3 days a month. Um, underrated, underrated, underrated. I wanted a franchise.
Oh man, yeah, that's a great one. My number two is Monty Python's Life of Brian. This I put it as an underrated comedy because so many people are more quick to go to Holy Grail. And don't get me wrong, Holy Grail is fantastic and it's incredibly funny. But Life of Brian to me is a better movie because
Mm,
it's the Monty Python crew truly firing on all cylinders. They had an actual budget. You could and one of the things with Holy Grail, you could tell kind of that they were kind of that even though it is a funny movie, you could tell they were kind of miserable making that movie, and they were because they were in
mm.
Scotland and it was just dank and just dreary the whole time they were there. This one they had a proper budget. They were in Tunisia. Graham Chapman was sober. Um, uh, he was a heavy alcoholic, and he was going through like several bottles of gin a day at one point. Um, but this is him, truly. And but it has some of my favorite gags. Just the whole idea of the guy who was born in the stable next door on the same day it is such a great Monty Python thing. But then you also get, I think you're being blessed all the cheesemakers. What's with the cheesemakers? But also like he doesn't want to haggle. Or you remember that scene when when
Yeah.
he's trying to buy the whole thing with the women at the stoning with the beards, and just the gag when they throw that huge fucking stone on John Cleese's character. The whole People's Front of Judea versus the Popular Front. Where's the Popular Front? He's over there. It's just one person. They yell "Splinter!" Um, Terry Jones. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. That is them firing on again. It's just everything just was, and I love that. If you ever get a chance to read a great cinema story, read about how they lost their funding, and I don't remember which Python it was, but one of them was talking to George Harrison. Yes, that George Harrison of the Beatles, and George Harrison said, "Well, how much money do you need?" And the guy was like, "I don't know. I think probably we need like $1 million." So he wrote him a check for $1 million. And I think it was Eric Idle said it's the most money anybody's paid to see a movie because the reason he did, he said, "I think it'd be funny." And of course, giving us the song "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life," where everyone's crucified. At one point, I actually thought that the crosses were going to start like going side to side in rhythm with it. It's just I absolutely that movie is silly on so many levels. Also, oh god, I never took Latin. But if you ever watch this movie with people that take Latin, when he paints Romans go home and the centurion catches him and he makes him conjugate everything,
There's
dear
not a one of
God,
us who's taken a foreign language class that doesn't understand that joke.
dear God, there's so many. And, oh my God, Michael Palin's Pontius Pilate with the speech impediment when he's asking who should go free. There are no waddles, there are no waters, there are no Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Fucking love that
Oh,
movie. That movie's complete genius. Complete genius and truly Monty Python firing on all cylinders. And thank God we got that before we got Meaning of Life because that movie is just bizarre.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting. Before I get to my number one, one of my honorable mentions is kind of in that same vein. Mine comes from the oeuvre of Mel Brooks. I know people like to cite, Blazing Saddles and The Producers and Young Frankenstein. My favorite Mel Brooks movie is Spaceballs.
Is that your number
Mainly
one?
because no, it's not my number
Okay,
one.
okay.
But it's an honorable mention.
Oh, okay.
I just think because again, I was of the age when Star Wars was at its peak when that movie came out, when Spaceballs came out. So it made total sense. It was many years later before I understood the John Hurt thing with the alien coming out of his chest. But I was 6. What do you want from me? My number one is kind of in line with Spaceballs. It's Galaxy Quest.
Nice.
I am a huge Trekkie, and everything in that movie is absolutely perfect. Every Star Trek reference, every Star Trek joke is perfectly, having Sigourney Weaver's only job being to interpret for the computer. Um, Alan Rickman, I think Alan Rickman deserved an Oscar nomination. He was so good. It was the first time I ever remember seeing Sam Rockwell in a movie. The first time I, really kind of fell in love with Tony Shalhoub. Um, you know, Tim Allen is bearable in that movie. Before he slid down a, MAGA hole. Um, I just think that movie is so great. And I'm actually really glad. The thing that probably I remember when Alan Rickman passed away, my greatest regret with him passing away was like, oh, I guess we're not going to get a Galaxy Quest sequel. So that's my number one.
So my honorable mentions are one is Wet Hot American Summer. I think that movie is
Mm-hmm.
just delightfully silly in the best ways possible. And the only reason I didn't include it on here on my actual top five is because it has really garnered more of a cult classic status. Um, but I also would put in there Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Talk about a great Alan Tudyk performance. That is delightfully just absolutely bonkers. Love it. Um, it's not these two aren't necessarily underrated, but I feel like we don't bring them up as often as we should, and that's Pineapple Express and Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
But just Forgetting Sarah Marshall for the one of the funniest 15 seconds of film I've ever seen is when he's drunk and crying in his room, playing the piano, singing the theme from the Muppet Show. Just like
What
that
else do
is
you need?
peak comedy. That is peak comedy. Also, Bulworth, the Warren Beatty movie. I know I haven't seen that in a couple of years, so at least a decade. But I do remember finding it immensely funny. And also another political movie, My Fellow Americans, starring Jack Lemmon, uh,
Oh,
James
that's a
Garner.
great one. I forgot about that.
That's a fantastic movie with some great dialogue. And actually, I think it actually proves it's pretty relevant today.
Mm-hmm.
And a great young Bradley Whitford in that as well. It's where I get the trope that anything that's set in Washington has to have a scene where someone's jogging across the Memorial Bridge. They have to.
Correct. They have to.
It's in DC law. But my number one is also on sort of the same level as I had, the same reason I had for Monty Python's Life of Brian and A Mighty Wind, Hot Fuzz. The Cornetto trilogy is fantastic. I wasn't as crazy about The World's End. I know a lot of people really like The World's End. I was
I
not a
don't.
fan of that. But Shaun of the Dead, absolute classic. But for me, Hot Fuzz, again, it's when they're firing on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
Every I love the quick cuts. Everything is just I love the absurdity of everything about that. Like I love the Shakespeare troupe doing the really bad Romeo and Juliet, and then at the end they start doing love me, say that you." And the look on Simon Pegg's face of just absolute bewilderment. Um, and what I also love about this is kind of like Pineapple Express. It's not just a great comedy movie; it's a great action movie. The action in that movie is fantastic. And oh my God, the last, what is it, 20, 25 minutes of that movie is epic. Absolutely epic. Of all these old people shooting guns and everything is just, and Jim Broadbent's so fucking great in that movie. Um, I also love how it plays with the trope of the buddy comedy as well, with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost's character. And Jesus Christ, like I love the scene when he picks up the phone and goes, "You have a missing swan. Okay, who is it? P.I. Staker, P.I. Staker, Piss Taker. Oh, I'm not gonna, Mr. Peter Ian." And then it's Stephen Merchant. He goes, "Yes, it's Peter Ian Staker, P.I. Staker, Piss Taker." And he's asking, "What did it look like?" "Well, it's white. It has a long neck. It is a swan." Um, that movie is so delightfully crazy. And I could watch that movie once a week for the rest of my life. That's how fun. I think that movie is so incredibly funny. Well, that's our top five. Um, everyone, it's been great having another episode with you guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave us a review, email us a review, awardsheaven@gmail.com. We'll read it on the show. Leave a 5-star review where you can. Next week will be our Oscar predictions podcast, and our top 5 will be what was that?
Well, what I want to say, what I want to encourage people to do is send us at awards7@gmail.com. Send us your like no guts, no glory predictions. All right. We want to hear, maybe you're going to give us something new to think about. Send us
Give
your
us
no guts,
reasoning.
no
Give us
glory
reasoning.
predictions. Give us reasoning. Show your work. I'm a teacher. I must have you show your work. Use complete sentences. I was going to say something really obnoxious. I'm not going to now. But yeah, we want to hear we want to hear. This is the last chance. Try to convince us.
And I don't know if we mentioned it last week, but we will be having a post-Oscars show, live show, reaction to everything that happens on Sunday, on the night of Sunday, March 15th. Right after the ceremony, we'll be going live. This will be, we'll put up the notice on this channel. And thanks for joining us, and stay safe, everyone.